Before the arenas, before the awards.
This is b4Nashville Live. Have a question for our guest? Send it to us via Messenger.
Here's your host, George Davis.
Welcome back to Before Nashville, where we introduce the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today. And joining me tonight, this guy's from Florida. He's born in Florida. His dad is a Danish immigrant. His mother, a blue-blooded American girl. And they lived in New England, where his father worked as a fisherman, and he is still up in that area. He's in Boston, so he's a Bostonian, I guess, up and around that area. And his name is Kristian Montgomery. Kristian, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem, brother. Glad to have you on, and we're really excited to talk to you and find out more about you, because I mean it's just neat to find out everything we can about those that are out there hitting the grind. And you've got quite the past. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but musically, you definitely have a very eclectic past, I would say. And listening to your music, you kind of blurred the lines. I mean, you can't be placed in one particular genre or another from song to song. But from what I read, it kind of feels like country is kind of your thing, but you do it in a different way.
Yeah, I grew up in a household that was constantly spinning records, by Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard. My first concert was Larry Gatlin and the Gatlin Brothers, and my second concert was Ozzy Osbourne. So, I mean, I've always had a pretty diverse musical library. It's, I think I definitely have decided, you can hear a lot of my country roots in my music. But I've never wanted to be a country singer-songwriter or a rock singer-songwriter. I just kind of wanted to let the songs happen the way they were going to happen. Right. And I've got way too many influences to stick to one genre, because I mean, that just wouldn't be doing the different influences that I have justice. So I mix it up. It's the rock stations have been telling me I'm too country, and the country stations have been telling me I'm too rock, but they play it anyway. And it seems like people are digging it.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, as long as, I was telling you earlier, I work in country radio during the day. And one of the things that I've been finding out, and I've been doing a lot of research and reading up, because with COVID, things have changed. And one of the biggest things that I think program directors have kind of disconnected with is it's not about them, it's about the people listening. Those are the ones that are paying the bills. They're the ones keeping the lights on. They're the ones buying the products, and they're the ones that want to hear the music. So why put your, I guess, most program directors, they kind of say, I go by my gut 80% of the time on a song. And they've got piles of research in front of them if they're in a position that they can afford to do that kind of stuff, with auditorium testing and call out research and stuff like that. Of course, nowadays you don't have to do it. There's so many different companies out there that do it for you and send it to you for free. But it's like back in the day when they had to do that, it's like they're disconnected from the audience. They don't pay attention to what the audience wants to hear, even though they have it in front of them. And I think that's one of the downfalls, especially with independent artists in any genre, whether it's rock, alternative, country, rap, anything, is that because they don't have a name behind them, they just kind of get shunned.
Yeah, it's truly unfortunate the way that the music industry has turned into its current version today. I find that that I don't want to blacklist myself by saying it, but in country music today, there is a fine line between music and propaganda. Yeah. And it seems like it's been dumbed down to, I was telling a friend of mine, and on a radio interview the other day, I've never met a girl in my entire life who's made me want to wash my truck, but somebody wrote a song about it and sold 1 million records. And, I get off the boat and my hands are frozen. And, the majority of the product that I bring back from sea goes to wealthy people's kitchen tables. And I definitely have a chip on my shoulder, because with the people that I grew up listening to country music with, working with my pop, and he was an electrician, and with my dad, who was a fisherman, it's always been the music of the blue collar gentleman. It's always been the music of the lower middle class. It's question your government, and it was about a hard day's work. And today it's this. It's kind of like what happened in 1990s with grunge music and punk rock. It got sold to the rich kids. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of my personal opinion of where country music's gone today. Is it's lost its soul. It's lost its purpose. It used to be that you'd get out of work and you would sit on your front porch and all your neighbors would come over and you would lament the hard day's work and kind of refresh your soul. And today it seems more about losing yourself. So, that's just my 2 cents.
Right. And I agree with you. I'm going to be honest. I agree with you. And I'm like you, I'm not trying to blackball myself, but I've spent enough years in radio that at this point, if somebody gets mad at me about me speaking out about it, then so be it. You need to toughen up your skin as far as I'm concerned.
There's a lot of great artists out there that we don't hear about. But a lot of the country artists that, I see and hear on the radio today came from very well off families. They come from a place where, they've got a disposable income where they can get up and go on the road and do whatever they want. It seems like a very upper class musical genre now, kind of like what happened with punk rock in the 90s. It went from being the music of the disgruntled worker to those teenagers who were lost, and it got sold to the masses. So I don't know. I almost feel like if I start selling this music a lot, I'm doing something wrong.
Right. Well, and I mean, you could look at it that way. I'm just going to interject here. You could look at it that way, or you could look at it like you're doing something right, because people out there are disgruntled, or, they have a connection with the music that you're putting out. So if they're buying it and listening to it, then
I hope so. I hope that's the case.
So I would prefer to look at it that way, that you're doing something right, as opposed to, yeah,
well,
it's half full instead of half empty.
It's kind of cool. A magazine out in New York, was writing about my fans as cult. It's almost like a cult following now, where that country band that, we're out there. People know we're out there, but they don't want to talk about us. So,
right. Right. And I hate when if they use that word in an article, they use the word cult. It has a bad connotation. And it's like, don't say that, it's a mass following of people that like what you're doing, but don't, it's like, it's almost insulting to me personally. If I was an artist and somebody said that, that I've got a cult following, it's like, no, that's not what I want. I want a very, a very energized following. I want people that enjoy what I'm doing, just because of the connotation. I mean, and that's my 2 cents on that one. But back to you when you were growing up, and you talked about Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and Ozzy Osbourne, and those were, with the music that you've put out, are apparently those who have influenced you. Who else have you had that influenced you as far as a musician, a singer, a writer?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Whitley. He was a huge influence. when I was growing up, he said, a couple of interviews, he talked a lot about how he really didn't give a damn how other people felt about his music. It was about how he felt when he played it.
All right.
And that he wasn't, trying to market his music to anybody in particular. It was all about how it made him feel. And his songs, I mean, the lyrics were so poetic, and I try to emulate that. I try to make it so that people can easily understand what I'm trying to say. But I try to embellish it in a romantic kind of way. Peter Gabriel's another guy that's, a huge fan of the way he's been able to reinvent himself throughout the years, and still, being a man who's beyond his years now too. He's still out there doing it and still creating music and still making wonderful art. And, he's been a huge influence of mine throughout my life. Him and David Bowie, and, I've got to meet, I was blessed, in high school, my girlfriend her father was the drummer in Aerosmith. And,
okay.
I got to see him, those guys, in their natural element, just being husbands and fathers, and they were boring, most boring people you've ever met in your life. And I thought how cool it was that, they, rock and roll was just something they did, in between family and stuff. And I do the same thing, between being a dad and a husband and, church and everything else. It's just one of those things I do to express myself in my own particular way.
Right. And that's what, I mean, do you look at music just as that, as being a self-expression? It's kind of a release for you?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's therapy. It's self-expression. I can put my political opinions out there, my religious opinions. I can, I can tell my wife how much I love her. I can tell my kids how proud I am of them in a very special way, in a very, in a way that, once you record it, lasts forever. It's, for me, songs are almost like a book of photographs. It's a memory in time that's preserved forever. And it's whatever inspired me in that moment. I have a song called "She Said Bird" about my daughter's first word. And it's, still one of the most beautiful songs I think I've ever written off of a solo album I recorded years ago. And it was so in the moment. And so, every time I listen to it, it brings me back. She's 20 now, 22 now, and 23 now. Geez. And, but I mean, when she was born, she came out screaming, and they gave her to the doctor, and she was screaming, and they gave her to the nurse. She was screaming, and, put her in her mother's arms and screaming. And as soon as they gave her to me and I said, "Hi," she stopped and just stared at me. And it was one of those moments where you believe in God. There's no question in your mind that he's not out there. And, and those moments are forever preserved by these songs that I have written. And, it's nice, to be able to revisit them from time to time. Right.
It makes it special too. I mean, if you can do that for your, your wife and your kids and your family, you write a song that they inspired, and then when they hear it, it's just, it's a whole different connection than what it would be if they just kind of, heard something else that you did.
Mm-hmm.
It's very personable. And I really like that about music in general. I mean, and I mean, when you started out, you were in church, you kind of a family thing, you were living with your grandparents. I'm guessing your grandparents were having you go to church. You got into church and started singing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you found your voice.
Well, my Reverend was a former tenor with the Boston Pops, and he knew that we were poor. He pulled my grandmother aside and said, he'd like to give me some vocal lessons. And, I agreed. And, he introduced me to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and all these other bands as well. So, you know, he was a huge influence of mine, and he had this really powerful tenor voice. And I remember my first stint with, you know, understanding capitalism too, when my grandmother said, you know, if you sing a solo, I'll pay you $10. And I was like, $10. I mean, back when I was a kid, $10 was, you know, worth like 500. So,
right.
So I remember I was 14 and I sang the Lord's Prayer, and I had two other guys who were doing harmonies with me. And when I opened my eyes after singing the song, I saw all the girls who were my age just staring at me in the front row, and I was like, all right, I'm on to something here. This is working. And
right.
you know, so it shortly after that, it went from the church pews to the bar stools, and you know, playing in different Irish bars and playing old Celtic songs, and that's kind of took off and led to rock and roll after that, and it was all over.
Right. And I mean, you know, like I said, your time in music has just been kind of very eclectic, but very learning. I mean, I'm sure for you, because you haven't been with just one genre the whole time. And I think I'm one of these that I think every genre can learn from another. You know, you can learn to be a powerful singer like some of the rock guys if you're in country and you've got a soft voice, or if you're a rock guy, you can learn to write, you know, more relatable songs like country from Listening Dead and stuff like that. Not that rock songs aren't relatable, but, you know, you listen to some of them nowadays, and if you can understand the words they're saying, then, you know, they aren't really, you know, there's just something missing, I think, in it. But I mean, overall, you've just really been in kind of a very well-rounded position as far as your music goes. And even to the point you were in a metal band and you were nominated for Boston Music Awards as best male vocalist in metal.
In rock. It was a rock, you know, heavier rock band. We were kind of metal. Yeah. We've, I mean, I played in this band Bone Dry System. And I tried hard to kind of countrify the band on several different occasions, and the guys would say, hey man, that's a great guitar riff, but could you play it through a Marshall and put on a Les Paul? And so, you know, I never really got through to them as far as that was concerned, but yeah, those days, you know, playing with that band was a great experience. I'm still great friends with all the guys. The guitar player is actually my daughter's uncle now. He married my daughter's mother's sister. But you know, so we're family, and we spend a lot of time together still playing music. And he's actually coming out to play on the 17th with me for a couple of songs. And you know, my heart has always been in I don't, you know, my mom tells me I'm an old soul, but I mean, you know, I still prefer that, you know, guitar and banjo and a set of spoons and sitting on the front porch playing. And but you know, I definitely have other genres that get incorporated into those songs. Right.
And I mean, you, one of the things that I've noticed, because I listened to several of your songs to kind of, you know, get a feel. And you do, I mean, you can do a song that sounds country, and then you can go to a song that sounds rock. And as a matter of fact, the one we're going to play here in a little bit, it's kind of got a rock feel. It reminds me of a rock band on the vocals. And I kept trying to think of who it was. And I wanted to say Stone Sour, but I don't think that's it. I think it goes back before them, you know, like the late 90s, early 2000s. But it's I mean, kind of a haunting, you know, the guitars and stuff. It's a really good song, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But you know, one of the things that I found interesting when I was reading about you, and this jumps off in music and kind of gets into politics. a little bit, but you spent time in prison for trying to be an advocate for fathers.
Yep.
And the thing that kind of blew my mind about that was spending time in prison for it. I mean, was it,
it was
just weird.
I had been a critic of family court. And I guess the best way to describe it is through my friends in Kentucky. Kentucky just passed legislation 5 years ago where if you get divorced and you have kids, mom automatically gets the kids half the time, dad automatically gets the kids half the time. All the social science points to that being the best case scenario for kids.
Right.
I had my daughter Maddie was from a previous relationship, and I'd always had shared custody with her mom, and she lived mostly with me for her high school years. And I think I was a pretty good dad. I worked hard, got her through school. She's working in a pharmacy now, and she's wants to go to school, back to school after this whole COVID thing's over. She was going in hopes of becoming a nurse, and then the world fell apart. But I married a woman that had been married 2 weeks prior to another man, and she, initiated some happy time with me, and the result was a pregnancy, and then I did the right thing, got married, but we were just never a good fit. Right. And when I got asked, I asked her for a divorce, and things got sour and ugly, and here in Massachusetts is a real adversarial system with divorces and everything. I mean, the lawyers pit you against each other. Everybody's telling you, you deserve this, you deserve that. Right. And it takes the focus off of the kids. The big thing is not a lot of people know this, but there's this thing called the Title IV-D of the Social Security program. For every dollar a state takes from a father or a mother in child support, the federal government reimburses the state 100%. So it creates a financial incentive for states to eliminate a parent to increase the federal funding that they get. So I was a huge advocate. I was lobbying for a shared parenting bill, and I went into court after it was a strange event happened. I became a type 1 diabetic. It's pretty rare for adults to suddenly have type 1 diabetes.
Oh yeah.
It usually happens later on in life. So I went in and I asked the judge to lower my child support so that I could afford my life-saving medication. Right. And he told me no. And I said, it's a death sentence. And he said, I'm not signing anybody's death sentence. And he's a little tiny Irish guy with a complex. And the long and short of it is I did what he told me to do. I paid my child support, and I didn't take my insulin, and I ended up having to be brought back to life at the hospital.
Wow.
And then I sent him a message begging for my life via Facebook. I had found him on there, sent him some videos of me and my kids together to show him, hey, I'm not a bad guy. My kids love me. And he had me arrested and thrown in jail and said it was witness intimidation. So I went in and, I was there for 6 months, which is not, not a lot of time. I mean, there's guys in there who, I was in there with murderers and rapists and all sorts of other crazy people. And all I was a dude who was just trying to be a dad. Right. So that's where I wrote my album, The Gravel Church. I decided that, all right, if they're going to throw this at me, I'm going to create something beautiful, and I'm not going to let them destroy me. I wrote the album, got out of jail, and, they told me that if I apologized, they would give me early release, and I told them that they could shove it, where. Right. And then, it was a pretty awful experience. But for, a guy in his early 40s, I got in a fist fight with a kid who was in his 20s and knocked him out with one punch. And it was it was a pretty scary experience, but I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. But I think sometimes you can't really sit on your laurels. You got to speak truth to power, and I tried. And
Right.
Massachusetts, they say it's a very liberal state, but I think it's probably the most conservative in the union. It's they create these agencies to give you something, and then another one to take it away, and it's it's how the government functions up here. So
Right.
but it sucked. I wanted. It's not really something I'm proud of. I don't plan on telling my grandkids about it.
Right.
But it happened. But it was out of it. I created an amazingly beautiful record with a bunch of my really close friends, and I'm very proud of it.
Right. And that was the thing I was kind of wanting, just to talk about, kind of leading up to that. You put out the Gravel Church, and I was reading a description, and that's like a 25 by 25 area inside the fence at a prison. That's what they call it. But you took that experience, as awful as it was, and turned it into something that is just amazing. I mean, a really cool album that's got a lot of feeling and a lot of emotion in it. And you can tell that it was at a time that you were kind of at, I don't want to say a bottom, but you were at a low point for sure. But you used all that and turned it into a positive. And that's one of the things that I love about, a good writer that can do that. They can take those low points and turn them into something that is positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wrote a song on that record called Razor Wire Heart, that I had written it for my kids. And it was all about not giving up. It was all about persevering through the darkness and not letting it eat you up. And it was one of those songs that I hoped that, when I wasn't around, they'd have that song to listen to, and they'd know that Dad is still there,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we all still struggle with it. It's when you have a mom and dad who are locked in this, eternal battle to try to one up each other, or to try to compete who's the best parent or everything else. You lose sight of, who really matters. And I took that song, and that was my way of expressing to the kids that, I might not be there. It's not that I walked away. I wanted to be there, but, I just couldn't be.
Right. Right. Just to kind of help them understand, and that's a very good thing, I mean, and I admire you for taking that, like I said, that kind of bad time in your life and turning it into a good thing. And I applaud you for that, and for the way that you did it, because again, you did it very, very well. A lot of great songs came out of that. The one that we're going to play, and I'm going to play it here real quick, is called They'll Remember My Name. And it's, like I said, it's kind of a the feel of it. I mean, if you listen to it, it's got kind of a haunting, I would call it kind of a haunting bluesy feel.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love. And I noticed, excuse me, I noticed in a lot of your pictures, and I wanted to ask you about this. You have a resonator guitar that you carry around. Is that one that you play quite a bit?
Oh yeah, I love. It's loud. My wife would say it's loud and obnoxious. I don't need an amp. No matter where I am in the house, she's going to hear me.
Right.
And but yeah, I mean, I'll throw the slide on, and after work, and just kind of blues out in the living room, or I find that it's easier to work on lyrics with that guitar for whatever reason. It seems like the words almost kind of follow the melody on the guitar.
Right.
But yeah, the pictures too, for the Gravel Church, this woman, Tina Enos, was the photographer. But after that, my wife has done the photography for my second record, Prince of Poverty.
Right.
And the third record, she did all the photography too for as well. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, I mean, and I like the Just the whole vibe of both of the albums. I mean, from the cover art, and the pictures that I've seen for Gravel Church and Prince of Poverty, and just I think if I'm trying to think, and I may be wrong, if I am, feel free to correct me, but Prince of Poverty, was that the one where you have the kilt on and then kind of like an eye makeup?
Yep. Yeah, that was a Montgomery tartan from Glasgow, Scotland.
Okay.
And it was just kind of my wife had found a cool hat, and she was
Mm-hmm.
she just kind of dresses me up however she wants. I'm like her Ken doll for the weekend, and she'll take me out and say, hey, let's do, she found a desert on Cape Cod, and she was like, oh, this is a really cool place to take pictures. We're going to go do a photo shoot there. And found some really cool, I brought a couple of my deer skulls that I got, from some of the deer I shot up here. Mm-hmm. And we brought it out there to make it look like we were lost in the desert, It came out really cool. But yeah, we try to keep the visual, to represent the music, to kind of create that vibe. We want it to look and sound a certain way.
Right. Now, They'll Remember My Name. Is that off of the Gravel Church?
No, that's Prince of Poverty.
Okay, it is off Prince of Poverty. Okay, yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure because I was reading and it seemed like the way that it was written was it alluded to, or it pointed that way. But anyway, it's the song's called "They'll Remember My Name," and I want to play that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it because I really want to find out the backstory about it and stuff, because sure. I think it's a really super cool song. And so we're going to play that and give you a taste of Kristian Montgomery and the Winter Kill Band. And I do want to remind you, of course, that we are sponsored by Go-Go Tuners. They're the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians alike. Check them out at gogotuners.com. Order yours today. They have everything from stockhead tuners to pedal tuners. So go check them out, gogotuners.com. Here's Kristian Montgomery and the Winter Kill Band. This is called They'll Remember My Name. And we'll come back and talk about that, the backstory on the song here in just a minute on Before Nashville.
I ain't got a place to rest. Park the best, but they spend the rest. In the shadow of the CEO, walks me to death, makes me dig my home. Will I find the higher ground? My crosshairs are burning to his brow. There's a promise of an afterlife. I'll probably hang, so let's go out tonight. They'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember my name. Let accept the consequence. Always was the noose around my neck. But I won't be tried by my peers. I'll say my piece. They'll make me disappear. Hang me in the dead of night. No last words were said into the light. But they'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember my name. When I find eternal peace, hope in my kin can get some sleep. But if they continue to fight, pick up your guns and tell them I said hi. They'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember my name. They'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember mine. They'll remember my name. Got a show that on ya. Push back and you can know ya. You're living with me, got it. There's me to sort around ya. Got a show that on ya. Push back and you can know ya. You're living with me, got it. There's me to sort around ya.
All right, Kristian Montgomery, the Winter Kill Band. That's called "They'll Remember My Name." Like I said, it's a very musically and even in parts of the voices, it's kind of got a haunting feel. But I don't mean that in a negative context. I mean it's just the feel of it. The words. I mean, your voice is just cutting through on that song. I mean, it just makes it sound so good. It's a very well produced song, very well written song. I mean, everything sounds really good.
It's a warning. That's the best way I can describe that song. It's a warning. I wrote it. I'm a big fan of the old westerns. And you always see the guys who are running cattle, and there's always some conflict with a guy who's the mayor in town, and he also owns stock in a cattle company, and he's trying to run you out of town.
Right.
And it's a small, little microcosm to describe the way the world is today, where the big fish eat the little fish so much faster than they used to. And we used to be able to fight back. I mean, you would see, that guy who would, he'd burn your house down. He'd try to drive you off your land. And it's still happening to this day in the U.S. And you used to be able to walk in, and you used to be able to shoot them up and take them out. And there used to be a lot of, I could tell that, from watching those movies back in the old days, there was the men in power still had some fear behind their eyes, but today they don't. Like you're not allowed to fight back anymore.
Right.
And we live in a place, as myself being a laborer, working the sea. It's a shame because, labor used to have a value. Those people that work at McDonald's, they're giving up 8 hours of their day away from their family. That's time that they could spend teaching their children. That's time that they could spend developing a better relationship with their family. But we say that labor is not worth as much as X, Y, and Z. But these gentlemen who sit behind desks, their labor is worth so much. They make the world go around. So that song was about. It was a warning saying that eventually, at some point, something's going to crack, and we know who we're coming for.
Right. And I guess that's kind of where the haunting feel of it came out, because of that, the kind of set up and take notice feel is exactly what it is to me. And like I said, it's kind of reminiscent of, like I said, I think I want to say Stone Temple Pilots is who I was thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of got some of the feel of a couple of their songs in there. And I mean, for that particular song, and I know, we talked earlier, your music's kind of eclectic. It's kind of, you can't put a label on it, but you kind of fit into each category per song. And I think that's a great thing. Again, I'm all about diversity with the music and fitting into different genres and being able to do, a rock song or a rock feel song. A lot of country artists will do that nowadays. They'll do ones kind of rocky, and then, excuse me, I've been battling this cough for a week and a half now. So, I just think the message of the song, and until we talked and you kind of explained that side of me, I could kind of pick out some of it from listening to it, but I didn't know to the extent of what it was. And I could see that a lot in it just by the, again, the production, the lyrics and that kind of stuff. Very, very well written, well put together, and quite honestly, very timely.
Yeah, I mean the first verse of that song is I ain't got a place to rest, a pot to piss, and they expect the rent in the shadow of a CEO who works me to death and makes me dig my hole. I mean, it's pretty much right to the point there.
Right. It paints the picture exactly how it is.
Yeah.
And so I mean, you're from what I've been able to listen to, a lot of your stuff is on YouTube. I mean, that's where I found most of your songs was YouTube. We got we're everywhere. We're on all the streaming platforms. Okay.
All the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, websites, kmwkb.com. You can get, t-shirts, CDs, all that fun stuff,
Right. And with where you're at right now, I mean, where do you want to be in the next 5 years with the music? Where would you, what's your 5-year goal for the music, I guess?
Well, I guess the fact of the matter is that, living in the trades and being a type 1 diabetic, we tend to live 10 years on average less than the average person. But you'll live longer if your lifestyle is a little safer. And for me, I think I'd like to be on the road. I'd like to be touring. I'd like to be traveling and playing music full time, because manual labor is only going to hasten my demise. And I'm sure there'll be some great songs that I write about it on my way out, but I would much rather prefer a guitar, in my hand than a shovel. So, it would be great if I could find some kind of touring support, some kind of label backing or something. I mean, we're doing okay as an independent company right now, as on our own. And our following is slowly but surely, getting larger and larger. So it would be great. We just gotta find that that right group of people who want to put a blue collar kid on the road without a dime in his pocket.
Right.
So we'll see.
Right. And that's a challenge
Mm-hmm.
for the artist, not so much for the labels, but it's a challenge for the artist to find somebody that's willing to do that. And
Yeah.
one of the things whenever I was asking that question, I was reading this article the other day, and there was a very I thought it was one of the best questions that I've heard somebody ask in a while. And it's because I've always said, I've always said everybody measures success in a different way. The way you view success and the way I view success are two different things. So as a musician, how would you define that you've succeeded in your goal? Would it be the touring? Would it be, a larger fan base?
I think it would probably, for me, success would be getting to that point where I could do this for a living, and not make millions of dollars, but at least be able to, to have a house and a place to call home. I mean, I rent right now. Success would be, at the end of my life, not dying on the side of the road or out in the woods somewhere.
Right.
I would like to be able to have the comforts of home when I'm leaving this world, and being able to leave my wife, well off. Hopefully, she'll be okay. Just I'd like to have a legacy that I did just as much as every other artist did. But I did it with less resources than they had. That dude who wrote a song about washing his truck, his parents were lawyers. My dad was a fisherman. I was talking to another guy who interviewing me about this writer who said that I made Hemingway look like a Cub Scout, because I mean, from, my time in Central America to my travels around the world, I found one of my brothers from my dad's first marriage was a Aleutian Indian guy. His mom was Aleutian Indian. So my father married her before my mom, when he was in Vietnam. And so, I got a half Eskimo brother up in Alaska that, it's a derogatory term. They don't like that being used. He's Native Alaskan.
Right. And,
I've had epic adventures all over the world. And I've done it, whilst in poverty. So, I think I've been pretty successful. I got to experience life while my skin was still tight to my flesh. And, I forgoed, the college experience for life experience. So, I would say that I'm already successful, that I've already got more material than most country artists are out there. I mean, there aren't too, when I spent time in Nicaragua, I got to be a cowboy. I mean, I had pictures of me with AK-47s in the streets of Managua. Not too many artists out there got to actually live like a cowboy. So it was pretty cool.
Right. A lot. And you say that, and then I think back to the old Conway Twitty song, don't call him a cowboy. And, and alluding to some of the, some artists you see nowadays, that's kind of what they dress as, and I mean, we don't really, I guess the cowboys of old are not the cowboys of today. The guys like the Matt Dillons and the Cartwrights, when you see the old bonanzas and that kind of thing, that kind of centered around, in the old Westerns, John Wayne and those guys, and the way that they portrayed them, they're not the same today. But, so, I mean, I'm not taking away. I mean, I know guys that are cowboys that are, they're true by today, true cowboys. And I'm not trying to disrespect them in any way, but it's just so,
I tell you what, the Cowboys of today require indoor plumbing. Now, one of the mates on the boat that I was on the other day, the bathroom was occupied, so he relieved himself over the side of the boat, and it wasn't one number, it was a number 2 over the side of the boat. That guy is a cowboy.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's a hard day's work in some people's mind. It's not what I would call a hard day's work. So
right.
Yeah, it's cowboys are definitely different now. Or if they're not extinct.
Right. Right. And I totally agree with that. But I reference the song because in the song that Conway Twitty does, he's kind of making a reference to, guys that are basically 3-piece suits through the week, and then their jeans and cowboy hats and boots on the weekend, that kind of thing, and don't call them a cowboy. Like you said, they don't know how to get their hands dirty like a cowboy would.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you mentioned that, it just brought that back to my mind. So we've got you on social media. You're on all the social media. And what's the handles that you have? Do you have some people have to have a different handle for different socials.
Yeah. Twitter is band dash Winter Kill. Instagram is at Winter Kill Band. And my Facebook page is just Kristian Montgomery and the Winter Kill Band on Facebook. Everything else is Kristian Montgomery and the Winter Kill Band for Spotify and YouTube and all that. And it's Kristian with a K. It's from my dad's country, Denmark. That's how it was spelt. But it made kindergarten really tough for me when the teacher would always go, "It's Kristen here," So. And kindergarten's a lot tougher down in Florida. I mean, they're relentlessly mean. So
right, they get you started early on what the real world's going to be like, unfortunately.
All right.
But so they can go there. They can find you. They can find you on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Google Music, all that stuff, and check out your music. And I just want to say that, if you're watching this now or you're watching it later, if you just, you missed the actual one, you want to tune in at another time, just go check out the Winter Kill Band, Kristian Montgomery. And again, that's spelt with a K. It's actually Kristian.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
So that's the way you spell Kristian, and you Montgomery is the last name. So go check it out. I really think a lot of people are going to, if they haven't listened to your music as of yet, and they do tune in, I think they're going to be really pleasant. I want to say pleasantly surprised by what they hear.
I hope so.
Because I don't want anybody to, some people have preconceived notions, and those with you and the music that you and the band do, it's like a preconceived notion is just thrown out the window. Again, I think that's one of the best attributes as a band and an independent artist that you have, is the fact that you are not defined by any particular box. Your box is I'm just going to say it this way. Your box is a hell of a lot bigger than anybody else's box.
Thanks. Well, wait till y'all hear the next record, because the next one is coming out this fall. It's called A Heaven for Heretics. And it's a throwback. I had been listening to a ton of Chuck Berry. I'd been kind of just, the way the man played guitar, it was just, everything was such fluid motion, and but at the same time you could see him hitting on the floor at all times. And so we have a couple of new tunes that are very throwback to that 1950s style. And I think people are gonna, it's still got that country vibe, but it throws a lot of that, a little Chuck, a little Elvis. It's you guys are gonna be like, whoa, where did that come from? So,
well, that's exciting, and I'll definitely be on the lookout for it, because like I said, I've listened to a lot of the stuff that you've already put out. I listened last night to several songs, and And again, that's why I say, your box is hell of a lot bigger than anybody else's, because you're just not going to be, you just come across as the kind of person, if you're not going to be put in a ring box. If it's not a refrigerator box size, then you don't want a part of it. You know what I mean? You got to have enough room to spread out. So.
Yeah, we stand out here in New England. We have pop country is very popular. Mm-hmm. Basically in New England, there's pop country and then there's us. Okay. That's kind of your choice of music. So it's, we stand out. We're like a sore thumb up here.
All right. Well, and that's always good, because to me, it's, how can I wait? I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. Basically, the ones that are different are normally the ones that are most sought after.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, the way I said that. That's not the way I wanted to phrase that, but I couldn't think of the wording to put it the way I wanted to. But because people are tired of the same old thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an age-old argument, especially in radio. I hear the same songs every 45 minutes,
mm-hmm.
Or every 30 minutes, or, I hear the same songs over and over. So that's kind of a breath of fresh air for a lot of folks, is to find that kind of stuff. So be sure to check Kristian Montgomery and the Winter Kill Band out on all the socials. Check out their music on all the streaming platforms. Check them out on YouTube. Now, do you have any, I did see, like, most of your videos were like lyric videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We
plans on doing any of the like more full blown videos, or you just?
Yeah, we're looking for the right people.
Okay.
It's the pickings are pretty slim here on the island. So as soon as my wife and I have been talking about making a move up to the mountains in Vermont. So we we're going to start looking around. I mean, I've got some ideas. We had a great, They'll Remember My Name. It's a longer song.
Right.
And a friend of mine was saying, it would be really cool to do a throwback, country Western kind of style. Western movie kind of style of, shoot 'em up, ghost town kind of place. So, we're looking around. We'll see what we find.
I could see that, like a lot of black and white in that one.
Yeah, kind of like that video Steel Woods did,
right,
for Straw in the Wind,
right.
So
super excited about hearing more of the stuff. I can't wait to hear, some stuff from the new album, or when it comes out this fall. I'll definitely be all over that one as well, and just keeping in touch and seeing how things are going, man. So I appreciate you coming on tonight and taking time out of your day. I know you've probably talked so much today. You're probably getting, cotton mouth after having so many interviews, but
no, it's great, man. I mean, the support we get from people like yourself is worth its weight in gold. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. It means a lot, it's been rough out there these last 2 years as far as the entertainment industry is concerned. So,
right.
I'm hoping that this is the beginning of it all firing back up. When I was down in Tampa, it was beautiful. It was like COVID never even happened. Everybody was having a great time. I got off stage and people were hugging me. I was like, hey, I'm not used to this, but I'll take it. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And it's great. Things are starting to open back up. So maybe that's going to kind of free things up. A lot of people are hitting the road again and on every genre, and which is good. And so hopefully things are starting to open back up. So again, it's Kristian Montgomery and the Winter Kill Band. Check them out. Coming up Monday night on Before Nashville, I've got Jessica Lynn joining me. So be sure to tune in for that show. We'll be talking to her about all of her new stuff. And Kristian, again, man, just keep in touch and keep me posted on that new album and when it's ready to roll. And I'll definitely be tuning it in on the old Spotify or wherever we can get it at. And if you're out there, if you find Kristian's music, you really like it. This is one thing that I always want to make sure that I start doing, is encouraging you as a viewer to support these artists. Don't just listen to their music, go buy their music, because that helps them.
It helps me make the next record.
Exactly. So you go out and you buy their music and support them that way. And yes, the streams help, but to purchase it makes a much bigger difference than just listening to it. And it shows that you're supporting them. So always, all the artists that we have on the show, Kristian, and any that we've had in the past, any we've had in the future, or have coming in the future, just be sure to go out and support them. Buy their music, let them know that you do support them. So again, Kristian Montgomery. Kristian, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. Have a great night, my friend.
All right. Take care, my friend.
All right. We'll talk to you later.